we have several contracts that we haven't settled, so we've had to make estimated budgets for many of our employee groups. And we know the teachers' costs, of course, for FY09, but we don't know some of the others. So those are uncertain. But I think that we budgeted sufficient dollars to fund the reasonable contracts that I think we'll ultimately agree to. But we are, the other thing I would mention is associated with FY09 and FY08. Every year we try to, if there are funds left over at the end of a fiscal year, we try to do some advanced purchasing. That's another way around this 2% cap, because if schools can purchase their photocopy paper in advance, to give you a sense, the photocopy paper for the district is $80,000 for the year. So if we're ever able to do that, I mean, that's a bid, aggressively bid contract, by the way. When we're able to do that, or some of that, that helps them out because they can buy it out of this year's money as well, and they have supplies. So as we move into the middle of June, I'm confident we're going to be able to do some pre-purchasing. Some of the special education expenses that we've been concerned about all year haven't been as difficult as we thought earlier in the year. So it's appearing more and more that we will not need assistance from the Finance Committee for reserve fund transfers. A lot of hard work's been done by the PPS office and others to try to, particularly in the transportation area, they're doing some very time-consuming but cost-savings measures to aggregate kids onto vans and buses and things like that. So I'm pretty confident that we won't have to talk to our friends in the Finance Committee.
Carl, is that because of the savings in the sped budget, or is that because the school budget's covering that?
It's a mix of things. When this PPS office began estimating what their costs were back in the month of, started really in September, and then October, November, they began quantifying it. They were looking at, I wouldn't call them worst case scenarios, but they're trying to predict what the range of services is going to be for students and placements and transportation. So estimating special education services is an inexact science. It truly is. And we continue to find ways to save funds by inclusion practices, and increasingly parents appear to be very pleased with some of the measures that Christine Danjou and her staff are making. So to answer your question, some of those early estimates were higher than they've turned out to be. Second thing was we used our circuit breaker balances to subsidize, but to bring down those costs. We went into this fiscal year with, trying to be brief, but every year you get a circuit breaker allotment. And then on or about June 15th, the state, what they do is they only allot you about, they tell you they're going to allot you, in our case, it's $850,000. And then in late June, they hold back money. And there are years where they are able to dispense the remaining dollars they have based on their holdback. So at the end of June last year, they dispensed, no fretting, almost $75,000 more. So that was money that had not been budgeted and was money available for the mix. We used that to pare down the special education costs, which I think were probably appropriate. So that took a big bite out of it. So there's a second reason. And yes, the third reason, there are expense budgets that can be used, can be transferred to cover sped costs. But I don't think that's done at the expense of regular education, like you might think, because two examples here are we budget X amount of dollars for legal costs. We budget Y amount of dollars for unemployment costs, because we're self-insuring when it comes to unemployment. And you don't really know until near the end of the year whether those funds are going to be spent out or not. And when you look here, I go through it with you in more detail. You look here, you'll sense that, gee, as much as another $75,000 is now available to us to subsidize that problem or advance purchasing or something of that nature. You don't really know that until June.
Right.
And I approach
Yeah,
it pretty
I
conservatively.
understand that.
Because you never can run out of money. You have to meet that 52nd week payroll. So you track these things daily at this time of the year. We actually do a budget summary on a daily basis now because you want to get right close to zero.
Right.
You know, you really do.
Carl, a couple of questions and
Yes.
a point. I think I may have found an error on page 8. We have funded a freshman boys volleyball coach, which we don't, and we don't have funded the assistant girls field hockey. I'm assuming that freshman boys volleyball should go up to assistant girls field hockey, because we do have a varsity and a JV field hockey, and we don't have boys volleyball.
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you for that.
That's not a big deal, it's just.
No, I just want to make sure that it gets funded in the right place. Then I had a couple of questions. We have the bus user fee offset is $80,000 less for fiscal '09 than it was in fiscal '08. Is there a specific reason for that?
Yes. And that, I want to look at the page.
It's on page 18. Under student transportation services, 3,300.
The reason for that is, what Mel's mentioning here is, it appears that there's $80,000 less available to us in FY '09 to subsidize our bus costs. The reason for that is, in FY '08, which was another tough budget year, we emptied out
That's right.
Exactly.
Oh,
the
yeah,
balance,
that's
Every
right.
revolving
all
fund.
of our revolving accounts.
That's
So
right.
the good news was in FY '08, we had more money to spend.
Right.
But we're back now to what I would call a more measured,
Even
even.
keeping it, okay. Okay, that's, I remember that. The finance committee asked us to. And then the one other question I had was under, on page 21, under pupil personnel, at the bottom of the page, under pupil personnel services, it says offset federal entitlement for transportation, $350,000.
Yeah.
And there was nothing the prior 2 years. I'm
Yeah.
just curious what that,
Yeah, good question. I appreciate these questions. In meetings with, okay, federal entitlement, first of all, there's federal money available to the district for subsidies of special education. It's separate from what I was talking about earlier, the
Separate from
circuit
circuit
breaker,
breaker,
which
right.
is state money.
right.
Every year, we have to project approximately how much money the feds are going to give us. And in Christine Danjou's judgment, and mine too, it would be more useful to use those funds to offset transportation
Oh, okay.
than tuition.
So they would appear in other categories in previous years, that money,
Oh, that
or?
question.
Right.
Well,
Right.
what you'll see here is when you add up how we use the
Oh, I see.
entitlement this
Okay,
year.
I got you.
See where it says 125?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
175?
The zero, okay, I
What
got
we
you.
really are doing is using the money in a different way.
Okay.
The bottom line doesn't really change too
Okay,
much.
right.
Except
Right.
for the growth in that entitlement. It's a more effective way to spend the money, but it doesn't have an impact really.
Not specific, okay.
Well, right, and just to carry on what Carl is saying, that when you are putting it towards, say, salaries or something like that, you're required to also pay retirement benefits.
Oh, right, out of that
and so forth.
money,
So there's
so we get more, right?
You get more bang for your buck,
Yeah,
so to speak.
right, even this way. Any other questions about it?
Just one, Kyle, is this document, I mean, how many of these do you actually print?
50.
So if somebody from the public wanted to
Any-
get
yes.
one,
Is
they
it on
could
the
easily
website?
get one?
No.
Can we put it on?
I can try to do
I
that.
mean, I think, I know a lot of other districts have their, if we
Yeah.
can get it on the
It's
website.
just so detailed, I mean, you have the salary breakdown.
Right,
It's a good
right.
idea,
Yeah,
you know.
but I will do that, and also emphasize that we'd be more than happy to make this available to
Right.
anyone.
Yeah.
If it's not in this form, we'll just photocopy it. So,
Yeah, sure.
so more than happy, an email or a phone call to the office. It's all public information, it's all out there.
I know people a lot of times have questions, and the detail is here, if anybody wants to examine it, they can do it.
Well, maybe we can put a few copies in the Flint Library.
Yeah.
I will add it to the website too.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, hearing none. Let's move on to routine matters, bills and payrolls, I believe we're done. We have minutes from the April 28th regular meeting. I've read them over, I didn't find any
I didn't either.
errors. So can I have a motion to approve the April 28th regular meeting minutes?
Move to approve the open session meeting minutes of April 28, 2008 as written.
Give a second.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Davis, seconded by Mrs. Vaca, sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? One abstention. Mr. Bowers was not a member of the committee at that time. And then we have two executive session minutes from April 28th. We had a pre-regular meeting executive session at 7:04, and then we had a post-executive session at 9:24. I've read through those and found no issues either. I don't know, anybody else see anything?
Do we need to make motions on these?
Yeah,
separately?
motions on each, right,
Okay.
David?
Move to approve the April 28th, 2008, 7:04 PM executive session minutes as written.
Second.
I'll give that one to Jerry.
All right.
Motion by Mrs. Davis, second by Mr. Venezia. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? One abstention, Mr. Bowers.
And move to approve the April 28th, 2008, 9:24 PM executive session minutes as written.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Davis, seconded by Mr. Venezia. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And one abstention, Mr. Bowers. Thank you. I always get nervous. I wonder if Steve was here, if he'd be finding a mistake in those minutes.
He definitely would, and I'm surprised he's not
You
coming
know,
down with it. I know, like,
Public comment, yeah.
I get really nervous, you know?
and Kyle's sending the minutes to him.
Yeah, exactly, to review.
We'll hear about it. It'll probably be a letter to the editor.
We have no budget update. We basically we talked about the budget. Staffing, David, anything?
Yes, Elizabeth DePippo submitted a letter of intent to resign from her position as a grade 2 classroom teacher at Wood School, effective the end of this school year.
Bids and donations?
Yes, we have a donation.
Donation, right.
To the North Reading Education Foundation, which we're still in the process of
It's a
setting up. and,
first.
Yes.
Well, we have, yes, but really pleased, back at town meeting, actually, there was a McDonald's fundraiser night.
I went to that.
Yep.
Very well attended.
It was very well attended, and Mary Lasden took the lead in helping to coordinate this, and realized $574.96, so.
Excellent.
Yep.
Yeah, will go into the foundation.
That
Was
was
it
gratitude.
from a group
Move to accept with
from
gratitude.
Mary?
It's from McDonald's and all of it, there's a, not
They
exactly
donate a
sure,
percentage of
a
their
certain
sales
percentage of
for.
the
Right.
sales.
But it wasn't any specific group, was it?
Like, it's not from the PTO, it's
No,
not from Edinburgh?
it's
It's from Mary Laston.
Well, Mary Laston, through all of her associations with other
She's
groups.
extremely active in the
Yeah.
various school communities, so.
Wow, so I moved that we accept with
Oh, so you
gratitude.
can second it, because Mrs. Davis already moved it.
Oh, okay,
So
then I
I-
second it.
Okay, any questions on the donations? Very generous. Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Maybe she'd like to be the first member on that board, too.
Yeah.
Subcommittee updates. I believe, Mr. Bowers, do you have an update on the finance, is it called the Finance Planning Committee?
It's fiscal.
Fiscal
Advisory.
Advisory Committee, okay.
We had our third meeting last Tuesday night. Meetings are every other Tuesday night, alternating with the school. And that was the first meeting that I've actually been able to go to. There are about 50 ideas that have been generated that have been through the first cull, and those have now been assigned to various members to start to flesh out. There are about 14 of those 50 that apply to the school system, and they